Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gaming Down Under podcast, hosted by the Average Australian. I am Chad. With me is Adam. Adam, welcome back. It's been a while. How you going?
G'day, g'day. Welcome back. Back on the air at
It's been a long
last.
time.
That's right. Back from our hiatus, back on the air.
So I guess what have you been playing recently since we last spoke? It's been about a month now.
Yeah, Titanfall 2. Just finished the campaign of Titanfall 2. Picked that one up on the Black Friday sale.
How much is that? Like 35, 39 or something?
$35, which is interesting. I don't know what the strategy behind that was from EA. Is it just that it's performing badly, so they're cutting the price on it, or is it sort of a strategic move that because they've got Battlefield 1 and that's doing pretty well, they're just kind of throwing Titanfall 2 out there super cheap to kill off Call of Duty, which by all accounts hasn't. It's still selling well. It's still Call of Duty. It's still selling millions, but not performing like the numbers that it used to back in the Modern Warfare Black Ops days. So interesting strategy because I saw it was pretty cheap in America on Black Friday, but for Australia, I mean, it was just super cheap, $35, $36 at
Have you seen that
Target.
Infinite Warfare, Titanfall 2, Dishonored 2? They're all selling really bad. Like Watch Dogs 2 wasn't hitting its targets. It seems to be
Yeah,
across the board, right?
sales have been down definitely, I think, and I don't know what that is. I saw some people actually blaming Black Friday sales for that because I think a lot of those games came out just before, right, in the weeks leading up to it, and I think some of the critics were saying that maybe that was as a result of Black Friday. People were holding off. So I think maybe when the next set of figures come out, that'll be
Yeah.
interesting because most of those games were quite cheap over the break. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of sales figures they do get by the end of the year. But I mean, yeah, Titanfall 2, dirt cheap. And I get the feeling like that might be an EA strategy just to kill Call of Duty because that's their second shooter really after
Yeah.
Battlefield 1. But it's actually a really good game. I really enjoyed the campaign. I thought it was a lot of fun. The
Have you tried
shooting's
online
great.
at all? Or?
I haven't actually tried
No.
online because I heard so many good things about the campaign. I just wanted to sort of focus in on that and finish it off. And um, it is a lot of fun. Like the shooting is great. Getting into the Titans is fun. There's so many different loadouts you can have for your Titans. So many different options there, and you can switch loadouts on the fly. So you can switch your strategy and you can switch your play style, and sort of the boss fights in the game, if you will, are up against other Titans. And it's just a really good game. I thought the story was actually pretty interesting as well for a typical sort of like Call of Duty style campaign of 5 to 6 hours or
Yeah.
whatever. But quite a lot of fun actually, I thought. So I'm actually keen to get into the multiplayer probably this weekend. But
Have you focused
um,
on the trophies at all? Is it like a good list or?
well, that's what I'm going through and cleaning up now. Is I think I've just got a few sort of those last remaining trophies to get, and then the probably the hardest one is just to finish the game on master
Oh,
difficulty.
okay.
Which I've sort of been doing chapter by chapter at this stage. I've knocked off a few of the early chapters. So far, it's not super hard, but it is kind of frustrating, and it does take you a little while to get through the mission. So I'm focusing in on that, but I definitely want to hit up the multiplayer soon because first of all, there's a few trophies around that as well. But it's just really fun. Like getting into the Titans is fun, but then being on foot is fun as well. You've got the wall run, you've got your double jump, and you do just feel super agile. And for people that have played the new Call of Duties, it is quite similar. Like you can
Yeah.
run, you can slide, but it just feels faster, and the shooting feels really tight. And it's a really good game. I'm really impressed with it.
Yeah, some people I see they say that it's better being outside of the actual Titan, like the mech itself, which I find
In
odd.
the multiplayer, it could
Yeah.
be. I mean, obviously, when you're on the ground, there are advantages because you're just super mobile, and you can really get
Yeah.
around. You can sprint, you can wall run, you can double jump, and you can sort of string your wall runs together to get height and stuff like that. So it's not like when you're on foot, you're just dead man walking. At least in the single player campaign. So I thought it was a really good campaign, and I'm definitely keen to check out the multiplayer.
Yeah. As for me, I've been playing my platinumed Watch Dogs 2
Already.
last week. Yeah, and I've been playing Final Fantasy 15, which I'm probably like 30 hours in.
Yeah, right. So just knocked off the intro then, I'm guessing.
Um, I'm like massively over leveled, but I'm only like chapter 5, I think now. I think there's like 15 chapters, so I'm yeah, like halfway through, I
Okay, so
guess,
that's a pretty
almost.
linear experience as well there, or
Oh no, no, no! It's open world. Did you play Phantom Pain, Metal Gear?
no?
It's similar to that, very open world. It becomes more linear when the story's getting told, but yeah, very open world. Very
Yeah.
Western inspired, which I'm like surprised about.
I saw that. That seems to be like a bit of a trend at the moment. It's all about like every game's trying to incorporate selfies at the moment. I know it's in Watch
Yeah,
Dogs 2, Dead Rising 4, which has just come out on Xbox One. That's another one you can take selfies with the zombies and stuff like that. And by the sounds of it, I don't know if there's selfies in Final Fantasy 15, but there's a lot of photography in there as well, isn't there?
yeah. Prompto, one of the four guys, he's like a photographer, and you take photos in between fights, and it's like part of the actual skill system. Yeah,
Yeah, right. So yeah, I noticed that like a lot of games are trying to incorporate that new, I guess, new things from society into
yeah.
your social networking, and especially the selfies and things like that. So Final Fantasy 15, I think it looks it looks intriguing to me. I definitely want to play it soon, but um,
It's been
I'm curious to see
yeah. I'm interested.
how the story progresses.
I'm interested, right? Because have you been a big fan of Final Fantasy games like in the past, or
On and off. I mean, obviously, seven I did play on PlayStation back in the day.
yeah,
Probably a little bit of 10 and 12, but was not really to completion. More like followed it, I guess, from the
yeah?
outside than really playing them too
Like
much.
I've been thinking about it. I heard it on a few podcasts and that. Like, what makes a Final Fantasy game? Like, what is Final Fantasy like in its essence? Like, to me, most Final Fantasy games has a point where you're playing, everything seems easy, and then you hit that wall, and you're like, "Holy shit, this guy is hard!" Like, I have to go back and grind, level up, get
Yeah.
skills, and then I come back, and it's that achievement of like killing a boss that was like felt like impossible.
Mm.
But like, what do you think is a Final Fantasy game? Is it just like a quirky Japanese like characters, like you go through a story? Like, I don't know, it's like really hard to explain what it is, right?
Yeah, well, I guess it's just that kind of obviously each game stands alone, but it's that kind of loosely connected universe where it's more about the look and the feel and those kind of things that you can't really put a finger on. That when you play, you just kind of know it's a Final Fantasy game, whether it's hitting certain themes or arcs in the storyline, or obviously certain recurring characters or things like that. But I think it's more one of those kind of, it's just, when it's a Final Fantasy game, it's just a whole bunch of things that come together, and
Because
it's a Final Fantasy game.
I think you could name this anything and it wouldn't change what it is. Like, I don't feel like it's ultimately a Final Fantasy game as much as I'm enjoying it. Like, I do like it. I just don't like, how is this Final Fantasy? That's like,
Well, I mean, I think it's just that it's just the next chapter in that
yeah.
story, and I think that they're just trying to keep it, I guess, modern, which I think is interesting. I thought the movie that set it up was actually quite interesting and quite well done. So for
I
me,
tell
if it
you
follows
what,
up from that, I think it'll be pretty good.
it does. Like, I'd be very interested, people that haven't watched the movie and the anime series on YouTube, and that how they'd like managed to keep up to date and like keep focus on the story, because like it doesn't explain like a lot of what's going on. There's like
So
small
just straight
cutscenes from
into
the
it.
yeah, there's small cutscenes from the movie, but they don't use like the vocals because I think it's like copyright like from the
Yeah,
movie.
right.
So like it's they'll show the footage but not the actual like voice actors.
Well, I mean, I think the story, going from the movie, the story was pretty simple and
It
straightforward.
was,
It
yeah.
wasn't too convoluted. So I guess you could probably pick it up, and maybe once you get deeper into it, there'll be more sort of flashbacks to touch on it and things like that. But I know what you mean. Like, you could probably look at a lot of those Final Fantasy games and just say it could be any JRPG really at the end of the day. There's, and that's probably the point of them. They just sort of stand alone, but
Well, I
I guess
think
there's certain things that bring it back to Final Fantasy.
yeah, like the old ones used to have that steampunk aesthetic, like like
Yeah,
old school but like high tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the background to like the weapons and the machinery in the cities are like big, like industrial cities. But like a lot of it's gone, like the heart of it. I just like I think because it wants to stay as a AAA title, it's going for that Western open world. Because it's more relevant to more people.
Yeah,
Like
and it feels like they've also changed up the combat as well along those lines as well, haven't
yeah,
they?
yeah, they have. Yeah, it's I actually really like the combat though. I think you'll like it too.
Yeah, it seems like it's more kind of action oriented.
It's not easy, eh? I'll tell you.
It's I just think that kind of like you said, they're trying to stay relevant and
Yeah,
mix it up. And like if you're nostalgic for the old Final Fantasy, well, the Final Fantasy remake by all accounts is coming out next year. So you can get your hands on that, and the old Final Fantasy games have been released on every single platform
they have. Yeah,
ever, so you can always get your hands on those. And I think they're just trying to move forward. And I think those things, maybe not steampunk, but they still got those fashion elements. Like the fashion is quirky, and the
yeah,
characters all got the crazy haircuts, and it's just like the weird mix from what it looks like. You're driving that car, but then there's like behemoths in the background.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're still mixing it up. So I think they're just trying to move it forward. And to me, it seems interesting. It's definitely on my playlist, and I think I'll be getting around to it shortly.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it to people. It's just a little quirky, but yeah, I'm enjoying like ultimately what's happening in the game.
Yeah.
Let's move on. PSX happened. I think it was early Sunday morning for us in Australia. I watched it live. Regretted it because I was dead tired Sunday afternoon. What did you? What's your overall impressions from like PSX as an event and like the trailers and the hype around what happened?
I think it was a pretty impressive showing from Sony. I thought.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
really
they hit
liked it.
some good notes. I think after PS4 Pro and PSVR, things were a little bit flat for Sony.
That
I think
conference for that PS4 reveal was really weird. That Pro.
yeah.
Yeah.
So PS4 Pro, the whole conference was down a bit, and then I guess the launch of it. I mean, I haven't really seen the numbers, or I don't know if there's been any numbers or anything like that. But probably hasn't set the world on fire. It's come out, and there's been issues from what I've seen of certain games are running worse on the PS4 Pro and things like that, and hasn't set the world on fire. And then PSVR, same thing. It kind of launched, people picked up their copies, and it died off. But I think PSX has got a lot of momentum back for Sony, because there's a lot to look forward to. There's
It's
a lot.
it's well
Um,
positioned in the calendar year, right? Like it's like the halfway mark between E3, PSX, and it's like a 6 month window between the two.
That's right, and I just think it's just still shows the power of the Sony brand, that Sony can have this event.
Yeah, it's more casual, more for the gamer.
That's right, and
Yeah,
I don't think someone like Microsoft could pull that off with the Xbox. I don't think the interest would be there. Nintendo could, if
yep.
they probably had more titles, or more, if they
First
were
party. Yeah,
willing to go down that path, they could probably pull it off for the NX. But I just think it still shows that the PlayStation brand has that value and that recognition, and that people really are really still into it and want to see what Sony have got lined up. And I thought the announcements were pretty good. They did the whole, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 available now.
yeah.
Let It Die, oh hey, it's available now. They did a few of those sort of things, and I just think they're back. I mean, Sony have had even with the PS4 doing so well, if you actually look at the first party output and things like that, it hasn't been great from Sony. It's been largely off the back of, I guess, having the better hardware,
Yeah,
and the third
and then
party
going for like
titles.
the exclusives, like console
Yeah,
exclusives, like
yeah.
DLC, and yeah,
Tying in with Destiny, tying in with Call of Duty, No Man's Sky for whatever that was worth, and stuff
yeah,
like that. So I think now it's kind of showing that there's just going to be so much stuff coming out from Sony. First party, third party exclusives, free to play. Like there's a little bit for everything. And that's sort of, I guess, how it goes for Sony. Once that the first few years of the console are over, they really hit their stride. I mean, you saw that on PS3. By the end of the PS3, like they were just coming out with some of the best games late in
they
the
have.
cycle, and
Yeah, they
seems to
have
be
this
happening
really good
again.
like 2 to 3 year period. I think they've got God of War, they've got Horizon coming, they've got Death Stranding coming, they've got GT Sport coming. They just got like this 2 to 3 year period, I think, where it's just going to be like every 6 months, every 3.5 months, there'll be this like first party title coming now.
Yeah, I think finally they're starting to hit their stride. I think I don't know what's happening with that. Is it the Sucker Punch Spider-Man title? That's not
Is that
Sucker
Sucker
Punch.
Punch?
Sorry,
That's who's it called?
I thought it was the creators of Infamous, wasn't it?
No,
Or am
it's the
I?
Sunset Overdrive. Those guys. What's their name?
Was it them? Sunset.
Sucker Punch. Yeah, does Infamous. They're on their IP hasn't been revealed yet.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember.
But I mean, that's another one there, and you look at um, the Street Fighter 5 kind of still going strong. They got the Wipeout, they got Crash Bandicoot HD, and there's just I think Sony is starting to hit their stride now.
You were talking about Spider-Man, right?
Yeah,
Insomniac Games.
Insomniac,
Yeah.
that's the one. Sorry, not
Sucker Punch is still,
Insomniac,
I think at E3 their title will get revealed. It hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah, right. So, but I mean, either way, like you said, there's going to be a steady flow now. Whereas probably Microsoft are now the ones that are kind of in a bit of a lull. I think Microsoft went hard on the Xbox One, and they still really are.
They're doing well
on
in
the
console
Xbox One
sales.
S. Well, look, I mean,
US, yeah.
Well, even here, you look at it like over Black Friday, and now you look on in the catalogs of your Target and your JB Hi-Fi and stuff, and the Xbox One S bundles are just always on special. And for someone looking to get into the console market now, you look at it and you look for just over $300, maybe $350, you can get something like an Xbox One S with probably 2 or 3 top titles. You could probably get it with, they were doing the Gears of War bundle. They were doing the Battlefield 1 bundle, FIFA 17 bundle. That's for $330, $340. You get a 4K Blu-ray player. So Xbox went really hard, and they pushed the hardware a lot. And they had their titles. They had the Tomb Raider. They had a few titles like that, but now they're probably in a little bit of a lull, and Sony's starting to hit it hard. So I thought PSX was good for them, and I think if you're a fan of Sony, there's a lot to look forward to there.
What did you make about the opening of the PSX Uncharted Lost Legacy trailer? Obviously, I like how they made it. It sort of like introduced itself without giving away the Naughty Dog logo. So people were like, "Is this an Assassin's Creed game? Is this like a Dishonored type?" Like it had a very Assassin's Creed vibe to it for me.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, have they announced a date for that, or?
It's next year, which is obvious, right? But yeah, I'm not sure when it is. I think it'll be later in the year, I imagine. They say that the footage that was shown in the trailer is at the start of the game, which is cool because I don't like how they give away too much of it. Because if it's a 2.5-hour game, 3-hour game, they've like shown 10% of it, right, just in that trailer. So I mean, like, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably like a twist or something that they've saved, but it seems to be that kind of Last of Us Left Behind, or
yeah, it's meant to be longer than that.
But in that sort of sense, that it's like
it's standalone
slash standalone, but sort of following on from reusing assets and things like that, so something they can sort of build on from the last game, because I doubt it'll probably be a little while before you see another, if there ever is another Uncharted game, or what. I mean, I feel like there has to be another. Sony, if Sony own that IP, which I'm guessing that they do, they're not going to let it die, so there will definitely be more Uncharted, maybe not with Nathan Drake, but there'll be some sort of,
I think there will be.
There has to be some sort of an Uncharted. So this is something probably to tide them over, and then sort of whether they reboot it or reimagine it or something like that. But you get the feeling like there has to be more Uncharted. They just. I
mean, you're looking like 6-7 years, right? Because it's this, and then it's Last of Us Part 2, and then maybe Uncharted gets rebooted in like 2022 or 2023 or something.
Well, yeah, or maybe they've already got something in the works. It's hard to say there, but that's one I guess we're curious on. So you had your PSX, and then obviously there was quite a few things announced at the Game Awards as well. Was there anything that caught your eye there?
Well, obviously, seeing more of Death Stranding was great, right?
Yeah, what still? I mean, that was actually a really cool trailer. I really enjoyed that.
Did you see all the fan things where you put the two videos on each other and like the baby teleports out of Norman Reedus' hands and goes to what's his name, the producer?
Del Toro.
Del Toro, yeah, goes into like his hands.
Okay, was that as in like that's something that was like deliberately put in there,
Yeah.
or it just
like if you stack the two trailers on each other, like it like syncs up.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. I mean, I still have no idea really what that is, but it certainly looks amazing.
How cool is Mads at the end? He looks perfect.
Perfect. And I think the act. That's my question. There is like, how much of a role are they going to have in the game? You know, is Kojima just kind of, I mean, you know, the big one was Kiefer Sutherland's in Metal Gear, and then, you know, he dropped like 3 lines for the whole game or whatever. So are these guys just going to be in the cinematics and then you play someone else, or how's that going to work out?
Well, Norman Reedus is the main character, right? So he'll be like excessively in it. There's still a female they haven't announced. That'll be an actress of some sort. I think Mads will be the main enemy in the game, right? So, I mean, he'll be in it, but not a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, the acting lineup is amazing, and hard to say like what kind of a game it will be.
It looks very Metal Gear.
It looks very Kojima, that's for sure. I mean, he's just got stuff all over the place. You got that tank with the whatever it was, the tentacles on there, and then you got the zombie army, and Mad Mikkelsen's character sort of controlling those undead soldiers or whatever it is, and they're hunting these.
He was like cutting the umbilical cords off the babies and that.
That's right. So I don't know. They're hunting. It's like some, I don't know, zombie army.
Don't you think it's very Matrix? You know, the whole battery thing they talk about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, obviously there's these babies that are whatever, something special about them, and these guys want them dead. And I mean, it's got Kojima all over it. And now that he's running his own company, there's nobody to stop him doing whatever the hell he wants. So it's going to be interesting. Curious to see when the first sort of gameplay trailer drops from there, but so far, I mean, the trailers are awesome. I thought the music in that trailer was actually really good as well. So
yeah, it's really good. I think we've seen enough of it, right? Until like they can show gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see it happening for a while soon. Probably maybe next. I would say maybe next Game Awards. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think it'll be at E3 personally.
No, I mean, and if you saw the Game Awards where Jeff Keighley, the host, kind of paid homage to his idol Kojima.
Yeah. A lot of people criticize the awards.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the awards are really kind of, I mean, it is Jeff Keighley's own personal show, I guess. Yeah. He's the one sort of funding it. It's not like some sort of industry awards or industry.
But isn't that what he wants it to be?
Well, yeah. I mean, and I thought he did an all right job. I mean, certainly he copped a bit of criticism about the way he went about things with Kojima. They're sort of digging up the past, and Kojima's sort of troubled relationship with Konami at the end of Metal Gear Solid. They're kind of revealing that Kojima was taken off the project essentially for the last 6 months there, and
locked in a room by himself or something.
Yeah, that's right. And so, I mean, I don't know how much of the game was done at that point. That's quite interesting because the last Metal Gear Solid was a pretty tight game by all accounts. Great. So was that they took him off the game, and had he stayed on, he would have derailed it, and they wouldn't have finished it, and he would have just kept throwing in crazy ideas, and maybe all the polish went in on those last 6 months, and it actually turned it into the product that it is. We'll never know, but certainly
I feel like it's hard to know, right? There's two sides to it, but I feel like Konami wanted to push the microtransactions, the online experience, so the game had like longevity past the storyline, and I think Kojima wasn't interested in it. I think he was purely about the story, and there was clashes about where the game was going to go like after its single player experience.
Yeah, right. And that's, I mean, you're seeing that with Metal Gear Online, is that they're really just trying to cash in with the brand and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just interesting that he was off that game for so long, and it came out to be such a well regarded game, and quite probably you would have to, most people would probably say it's the best Metal Gear Solid title, at least in terms of like the tightness of the gameplay and the focus on the gameplay and things like that. So interesting. And like I said, there's always two sides to every story. But if you look at general opinion, and certainly the way Keeley went about things in the Game Awards, it's Kojima is a god and he
Yeah.
can do no wrong, and Konami are the evil empire who, so that's interesting. So, I mean, I think he got a little bit of flack for that, for being a little bit heavy-handed maybe, and Kojima probably looked a little bit uncomfortable with that as well. But I think overall good, and it's like you said, it seems like the Game Awards is a lot also about just pushing trailers.
I think that's a bit of like confusion, right? Because like, is it an award show or is it like a premiere reveal of games? Like, isn't there enough like conferences to show that sort of thing?
That's right, but I think that's where probably Keely's seeing the opportunity to get the money and the revenue off that. Is, it'll be the Game Awards. He's put his own money in to develop it. He'll get the big names. He's got the
It's to
contacts.
get the eyeballs, I think.
That's right, but then he knows that he, by having the trailers, he'll get the viewers, and then by having the viewers, the trailers will do well and get so it's a bit of a, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and it kind of works out well for everybody. So can't complain when you see a trailer like Death Stranding, and then obviously you had the Last of Us 2 as well. So
Last of Us 2 was at PSX at the end.
Oh, that PSX was it?
What do you make of the Game Awards though? Overwatch winning Game of the Year. I mean, we'll probably do a podcast ourselves on the Game of the Year, like our contenders and who we think is the best game for this year. But Overwatch, like for me, I don't rate that game anywhere near Game of the Year.
It's good. It's got a big following, and it got a lot of love. And I think the people who have enjoyed it have gotten into it quite a bit. I think it's got the casual factor, if you could
definitely successful commercially.
Pick up and play, yeah.
But that doesn't make Game of the Year for me.
Well, no, I mean, but I think it's definitely been one of the better titles this year in terms of the quality of it.
Polish,
I haven't seen, and look, I mean, even the people who don't like it, I think generally you would say people said, okay, well, I don't like it. But there hasn't really been, no one's come out and really hated it. It's not one of those games. It's not a polarizing game. Whereas the people who have enjoyed it have really enjoyed it. And I think there's depth of characters there. The gameplay is simple enough to just pick up and play, but there's still a little bit of depth there.
Yeah.
And I just think it caught people by surprise. I think people were just surprised at the quality of it, because
Blizzard always do that. They always produce good games. Like, people shouldn't.
Yeah. No, I mean, but I think people just thought, this is going to be some sort of MOBA shooter, or some sort of free to play or microtransactions or something like that. And I think it just caught everybody a little bit by surprise. Personally, it didn't do it for me. I played the beta, and didn't love it. I could definitely see it felt polished. The shooting was good. The mechanics were good. The graphics were nice. You had that character variety and things like that. But, I mean, it wasn't for me. But I can see it picking up probably a few more Game of the Year awards, I think, this year as well. So I don't think
I bought it. I bought a CD key off the net for the PC. Played it for probably 6 months. It's a very good game. Like, it's like if you like Team Fortress, right? You're gonna like this game. Like, if that style. But I don't know. To win Game of the Year, you need to have some sort of like focused experience, a good quality game. Obviously, Blizzard do that, but I just feel like a game that people play casually, or most people anyway, an online game like that, I don't know, it's got to be absolutely amazing to win Game of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, and that is interesting that, it's probably maybe the first time or one of the first times that sort of in one of those big awards, it's been a multiplayer only title essentially that's won Game of the Year. But I think you're probably going to see that more and more over the years, that the single player story focused, story driven, linear kind of games are the ones that are gonna probably struggle, because people play those games, but the amount of people that actually play those games to completion
Yeah.
is a smaller fraction. Whereas something like Overwatch, I think people they picked it up, they played it, they loved it, they got into it. Like you said, people have been playing it for 3-6 months. And it does have that casual factor, but I think that's where it's a little bit misleading, because it seems like a casual game, but then people really get into it. And I think there probably is enough depth there that people do sort of get into it and get quite obsessed with it. And it's quite addictive. And I think it's captured a lot of people. So I think it'll pick up a few more awards. But I mean, for me, it's just interesting, that they're doing those Game of the Year awards a little bit early for mine, like you said.
Yeah, well, Watch Dogs 2, Final Fantasy
Watch Dogs 2,
15.
Final Fantasy.
They the awards were done before they came out, so
that's right. Dead Rising 4 has just come out.
Yeah.
Last
Guardian.
Last Guardian. So probably a little bit early to be doing the awards as well, but like you said, I mean, that's why it's more of an entertainment show with some trailers and things like that than any really awards that you can take that seriously.
Yeah. Going back to PSX, like, what did you think of like Crash Bandicoot? We saw footage of that. I was really impressed with the actual graphical, like the visuals of it. I was like thinking it wouldn't look that good, and it's remained true to the originals. Like, it still looks like the originals as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I think, one that's been long been going around the rumor mill and things like that. Oh, there's going to be a new Crash Bandicoot. There's always been some speculation about Crash Bandicoot for a while, and I think that was.
I mean, it was last PSX that he wore that shirt, right? The
Crash Bandicoot that's shirt. What I was going to say. Yeah, so there was the Crash Bandicoot shirt, and then there was rumors that Sony were trying to buy back the license from Activision or whoever it was, and all this sort of stuff. And I love those Crash Bandicoot games back in the day. So I mean. And then they had it in the Uncharted 4. You had the little Crash Bandicoot mini game and things like that. So I think Crash Bandicoot is PlayStation almost to an extent back in those days. So good to see them bringing it back. Hopefully, when you actually play it and you play that full experience, your memories of it aren't tarnished, because. As good as they look and things like that, the gameplay was pretty sort of basic. It was a revelation back in the day, but probably now I think it's more people just have the nostalgia for it. But, Sony's got a lot of those kind of properties, and you saw the Parappa the Rapper.
Did you ever get into that? I missed that. That was like...
No, I never got into it. I remember seeing it back around the day, and there was a few of those rhythm games back in those days, and I didn't really... I think I played, there was another Japanese one. That was kind of like one of the early guitar rhythm games. I don't know if you'd heard of it. It was called, I think, Jamalani, which was another one like that. And I didn't, Parappa the Rapper I never did. I remember seeing that character quite a bit, and he was sort of another kind of iconic or semi-iconic character that Sony were trying to push back in the day. But I never really got into it too much. But I mean, that's another one that they've got there that they can always resurrect. You've got the Wipeout series that, they're doing something with again. So it just
I think all of this is indication to see if there's enough interest to actually produce new versions of these games. I think that's just all it is.
Yeah, well, there's that, and there's also just trying to, I guess, sort of cash in on a little bit of that PlayStation legacy and a bit of the nostalgia for some of the old classics and things like that as well. So, I mean, it just shows you what a strong back catalogue and history that Sony have. So I think every now and then you'll see them start to kind of do that. And then, there's so many PS2 era ones that they can do as well. So, the age of the remasters and remakes and this sort of thing is just never going to end now. And
no,
Sony, with the back catalogue that Sony have, they're just going to keep cashing in on it. So it's just
a no-brainer for them. I'm curious, if this would be the last part of it, because I'd be surprised if a PlayStation 5, for example, goes through this sort of remaster phase once again. I feel like the games from PS4 are gonna be the version now.
Well, yeah, I mean. It'll be interesting, if there even is a PS5 or
if it's just different versions of 4.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is in limbo now, but I think the remasters will never stop. I mean, the fact that they're remastering PS3 games for the PS4, I think just goes to show you that they probably will, because
But do you think they're ever going to, like, say, remaster Uncharted 4? Like, is there ever going to be a point where that happens?
well, I mean, I don't. Yeah, maybe not an Uncharted 4, but you can see some of those more, especially later on in the cycle. You probably will, because you'll see those kind of PC centric titles.
Yeah.
That later on in the PS4 and even PS4 Pro lifespan, they're not going to look that good. Whereas they're probably going to look amazing on whatever the latest PC is in about 2 or 3 years. So you probably will. Let's say the PS5 does launch, you probably will get some PS4 remasters, things that came out late in the cycle. Maybe they will, because already you look at some of the PS4 titles, and they look pretty good. But if you compare it to the PC version, if you're running a 1080,
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't actually seen a Tomb Raider on a 1080, but I'm guessing it would look way better than even on a PS4 Pro. So you look at what could happen in a couple of years. I think you probably will still see remasters.
Not looking
Maybe
forward
not
to
on the
that.
scale. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe not on the scale now. And who knows? Maybe there'll even be some sort of backwards compatibility or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Too early to even speculate what's going to come around the corner for that.
What else interests you in the conference? Were you excited about NAC 2? I'm surprised this game. Like, I knew it was happening, right? It's been leaked like 2 years ago, but I just don't understand this game coming out.
I don't know. I mean, it's Mark Cerny's pet project, so
He's crazy. Yeah, it's like,
yeah. I mean, he's probably chucking in some maybe cool tech in there that kind of doesn't really stand out or whatever, but maybe he's using it to experiment on certain techniques. It's kind of could be a bit of an R&D game for them or something like that. You never know. But yeah, I mean, NAC is just this enigma now for people. Like,
it's not going to get a fair chance, no matter how good it is.
But wouldn't it have just been fun if they at least went, look, NAC, they show the trailer for NAC 2 or something like that, and they're like, all right, and NAC 1 free for everyone with PS Plus on PlayStation.
Why haven't they done that?
I think it's just because they know now, because you go to NeoGAF or Reddit or whatever, and every month when the PS Plus games get announced, it's like, where's NAC? Is it going to be NAC? It's going to be NAC this year. Surely it's going to be NAC. And it's kind of, I think Sony know now that it's kind of become this
running joke
or whatever. And I think they're just like never going to release it now. Like, it's just never going to come out on PS Plus. Like, never. I think they would rather that you buy NAC 2 and you get NAC 1 for free or something like that. But it'll just never come out as a PS Plus game now, because it's like revered now. I think it's become like a magical title now.
I don't know. It has to, like, I'm sick of writing about it in my articles, right? I keep mentioning Killzone and NAC, and I'm just like tired of talking about those two games. I didn't even want to play them either.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I think people look at it and they just there's just this constant group, whether they're a minority or majority, I'm not sure, but just this constant group that just demands that a PS Plus has to have this AAA game or whatever it is. And, even they would rather, let's say, get a poor game like the NAC or Killzone or The Order or something like that than a quality indie title, just because it's AAA and it's perceived better value or something like that. But I just think now with the way the NAC thing has gone, it'll never, ever come out on PS Plus. Never. Or maybe like when the one day when Sony are like shutting PlayStation Plus down, or PlayStation, they'll just be like, all right, here's NAC for free one day.
The janitor will flick the switch.
Yeah, like, oh, here you go, NAC, finally. And people will be like, sucks.
So other games that interest me, Neo no Kuni 2, we saw more of that. Really love the first one. That's a game I wouldn't mind seeing on the PS4, honestly, because I think a lot of people missed it.
It looked amazing. I played a bit of the first one, kind of tapered off, but it looked amazing. It
Fantastic
looked absolutely
game.
amazing. Yeah, maybe, like I said, probably overlooked a little bit.
I'm curious, because like the first one had this like kid look appearance, like very, like childlike, but the actual story was really dark.
Yeah, yeah, JRPGs do have a little bit of a tendency to do that, don't they?
Yeah, because the first one had a bit of a Pokemon inspired like leveling, capturing, and I haven't
Yeah,
seen that in the second one like in the trailer so far. So I'm curious if that's still there because I like that from the first game.
yeah, I thought it was a really good game. Yeah, I don't know why I just tapered off and kind of lost interest in it, but just the graphics alone, I mean, yeah, to see if they can do something like
Fantastic
that on a
art style.
PS4, yeah, the art
Yeah.
style and the artwork and things like that, I think it's, yeah, a very good looking title.
Obviously yeah, as well. Danganronpa 3, PS4, and and Vita. I love the
Yeah,
conference. Did you see that? He kept like putting up the Vita, like
yeah, well, I mean, the Vita is still
still going.
around, I guess. It's still, yeah, I've got one. It's still, I don't know if they're still making them, or it seems like they are, because I think at the last, was it at E3 or whatever, that they announced like the other colors and things like that.
Yeah,
So was that Tokyo Game Show?
that was Tokyo Game. Yeah,
Yeah, so the Vita's still around. I think the Vita's a good piece of hardware. Like it's probably just underutilized and by Sony and underappreciated. And whatever bone you throw to Vita fans, why not? If it doesn't cost too much money and they can get something out there, then they might as well.
yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of games we could talk about, but like for most games, it's just trailers. I think like the big game for me is like let's just go on to Last of Us 2. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, what did you think with the trailer first? Like I thought it was fantastic.
yeah. I mean, I think with The Last of Us, with Naughty Dog now, you just know what you're going to get. So there's been some speculation about what the story might be, or there's going to be like a bit of a revenge tale or something like that. But
Did you see the fan theories?
yeah, I've seen some of them. I'm trying not to be spoiled on it too much because, again, like you said, how long is the experience going to be? Don't know.
I mean, The Last of Us Part 2 is like a fully fledged game.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I mean, for the Naughty Dog stuff is all about
Sorry.
story.
Yeah.
So I'd rather go into it blind, and that's why I thought probably The Last of Us, the first one I was so blown away by because I kind of went in there not really knowing what to expect. I think I'd kind of not paid any attention to anything that had sort of come out about it. I just sort of knew, this is something that I want to play. So I think I'll probably be keeping out of it, but I think it's just a no-brainer. You're going to get quality. It's going to look amazing. The acting's going to be great. I think it's just a no-brainer. And I think whatever they do story-wise, I think they'll do it in a good way.
They did say that they were nervous about like not having a reason to tell like a second game, so they're like assured that the story that they're telling is of high quality and worth telling. So like I'm confident that they can produce as good as the first one.
Yeah, I mean, Last of Us is something that probably doesn't need a sequel or doesn't need a part two.
Yeah,
So, if they wanted to just sort of do The Last of Us as a completely different, part Last of Us 2 as something completely separate and its own little thing, that would have been cool as well.
I'm really
But
happy it's Joel and Ellie personally.
yeah, I mean, I could go either way really because I thought The Last of Us by itself, it kind of wrapped things up nicely and they didn't have to go back, but you knew that they would.
Yeah,
So I think, like I said, the onus is just on them now to do it in a good way, and so not to tarnish the original game with things that come after it, and that doesn't necessarily have to happen, but sometimes the sequel to something comes out and all of a sudden you feel differently about the original.
yeah.
So hopefully that won't be the case here.
I've got full confidence in Naughty Dog's ability to win us over again. I think it'll
Yeah,
be fantastic.
I think so. I mean, hopefully they'll throw in some new gameplay things like that as well. Because if there's one criticism from me about the Naughty Dog games, Uncharted and Last of Us, is that the story's amazing, the characters, the dialogue, the acting, everything, but the gameplay, yeah, it's all right, but it's not amazing. So
But
maybe
you've seen
hopefully
the
they'll.
influence Last of Us has had on like Sony, right? Like Horizon, Last of Us ish, God of War is now this open world Last of Us style. Like it's been heavily inspired. It's like pushed so many games into a different direction.
Yeah, I think the look and the feel of it, but I think something like, at least on the face of it, Horizon has more depth, and Yeah, I know what you're saying there, but I just think in terms of, I mean, for me, by the end of Last of Us, I think the gameplay, the formula was getting a little bit tiring. There wasn't anything to sort of open up in that second half of the game. It was just more and more of the same.
Yeah,
So hopefully I'm sure they'll introduce a few new elements, and I think they did with Uncharted 4 was enough probably of a
the
refresh
grappling
there.
hook and the
The grappling, and
the
they
open
kind of made
world.
the open world, and they made the stealth a bit better and a bit more fluid and things like that. So I think they'll probably tweak it and refine the formula a little bit, and hopefully chuck in a few new elements in there as well.
What else interests you from the conference? Like, I feel like there was obviously the Horizon Zero Dawn, another trailer. I feel like we've seen enough of that game at this point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the hype's there. I think that one's going to be a no-brainer for me. That I'll definitely be picking that one up, and just think it's more of just sort of, I think Let It Die was interesting. I've downloaded it, haven't played it yet. I think that was another sort of interesting one where they were kind of like, and it's out now, free to play, bang. That was a game that sort of,
Any idea about the
um,
microtransactions and that?
from what I'm seeing, some people are saying like they do play a part.
Yeah,
They do play a part in progressing, but um, I haven't actually played it myself yet. I downloaded it as soon as I saw the announcement. I haven't actually
it's
played
apparently
it, but
meant to be very difficult.
yeah, and I think that's where I think probably there is a little bit of that pay to win element, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what that game is all about as well. So that's one that's been sort of floating around for a while. But yeah, I mean, just overall, I think it was a pretty sort of strong bunch of announcements from Sony, and I think people will be quite happy. But nothing there that you would kind of just say like, this is something that just completely and utterly blew you away. It was more just like kind of, oh yeah, this is
I thought
good, this
Last
is
of
good,
Two
this is good.
blew me away.
Yeah, I mean, Last of Us 2 is big, but kind of knew that it was coming.
Well,
Um,
to be fair, like we didn't really because like
well,
they've had
not
interviews
not
and such where they
officially.
yeah.
I just mean like you kind of knew, like in the back of your head, like that there will be a Last of Us 2. Probably not the direction that they've gone in there, but
It was never certain though, like because if you look back, they said that they didn't really feel like there was a story to tell after the first game. So there was in the balance, like even like they had scripts and that they threw away because it just didn't work. So I mean, there was no certainty this game was coming.
no, and like I said, I mean they could have easily wrapped it up after the
Yeah,
first one and been done with it, but
that's
probably
why I'm confident about this game because I think they had that sort of like scare, worry about it. Like if they had that worry themselves, obviously they treated this second game well.
well they did. But when Sony flashed the cash, a lot of those worries
Not
tend to
Naughty
go
Dog.
away.
Nah.
Well, you never know because I think there's a lot riding on a title like that as well, and I think Sony would be, they'll do whatever it takes probably to get another one out. So I mean, like I said, I know Naughty Dog wouldn't probably put it out if they didn't have faith in what they were doing, but like I said, at the end of the day, there probably didn't need to be a Last of Us 2 in the first place, and they finally, I guess, come up with a way to do it. So, yeah, like I said, I don't have any problem with that. I think it'll be a top title.
I guess to end like the PSX, they obviously showed the Last Guardian trailer, which the game's now out today. What have you made of the reception of everything you've seen? I've watched a few videos. It looks fantastic. The consensus seems to be that it's a fantastic story, fantastic characters. Good character building, driven by its story, but struggles with camera issues and like controls and the FPS, like performance wise. I think that's to be expected, right? That's what we thought would happen.
Yeah, I think it's been a low key debut for it. I saw some people, saying it's coming up, and that there was a little bit of hype. But I think after that initial announcement and when everybody
The
knew
delay
that there
happened.
was a delay and things like that, I think the hype kind of died down a little bit, and I think probably only the hardcore fans really stuck with it. But it seems to be low key but quite positive,
Yeah.
maybe even like surprisingly positive from most parts. And I think some of those camera angle things and things like that, they would be expected judging by some of those early previews and things like that. But
And it comes from that PS2 era, right? Like that was sort of like the
it's got that kind of quirky Japanese old
background.
PS2 era where the cameras and things like that were always a running battle with the control schemes and things like that. But by all accounts, quite a positive reception. So I think Sony would just be glad and that it's out. It hasn't bombed. It's actually done pretty well, and from what I read, I think the sales have been pretty good as well. So I think they'll be happy all around with that.
I'd be curious how that game sells, right? Because it's not like a mainstream game. It's got a niche and
It's not, yeah, but I think it might actually be like a bit of a slow burner, and I think when it might actually get more and more sort of hype and praise as it goes on, and I think it'll do all right in the end.
I hope so.
I haven't really
Because
seen
like
too much negativity about it.
Until Dawn, right? That came out with no press. Obviously, it was less. Last Guardian's just got that, the expectations are high because of its history of like development. But Until Dawn came out and was like a hit without sort of like people thinking it was going to be. So I think if The Last Guardian can do those sort of numbers, I think it was like 2 million or something, 3 million. I think it'll be successful.
Yeah, and I mean Sony, I think, have a little bit of a bad habit of not kind of giving those lower key titles the marketing push that they deserve. Until Dawn was definitely one of those.
They gave No Man's Sky promotion. See what happened there?
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think Last Guardian, probably they could push it a little bit more, and maybe they were unsure about it as well. But now that it's out and it's doing well and getting good critical reception, they might kind of give it a bit of a nudge. And I think that might be a game that will pick up a little bit over word of mouth as well. And it's not a multiplayer game, so it'll have longevity, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think it'll do all right in the end. Like you said, probably a couple million, they'll be happy with that.
Any final thoughts about PSX, Sony in general? What you still want to play to finish this year off before the Christmas comes? Anything like that?
Oh yeah, well there's still so much. I mean, like I said, I really want to get into a bit of the Titanfall 2 multiplayer, so I can have a bit of fun with that. That's probably the main one. Then I would like to pick up Final Fantasy 15. I don't know if I will have time to finish that before the end of the year, but if I could at least make some progress in there. Watch Dogs 2, I was kind of interested. Now maybe I'm not, and I think I can hold off a little bit.
I think you'll like that.
Oh, look, I mean, I actually quite like the first one.
It's got a bit of a Saints Row vibe to it. Like a lot of them, I don't know if you played Saints Row, but like a lot of the missions, have like the music to it, and it's like fun, lighthearted.
It does have a little bit of that, the bright colors and things like that. So, and I did like Saints Row 3 especially quite a bit. So
if that goes on sale for like $35, I highly recommend it. If it's like a low.
Well, and that's what I'm kind of hanging out to see now is obviously Sony are doing their 12 days of Christmas, and there's actually been some not bad deals. I think Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider was $40. Fallout was about 30.
And Dishonored 2 was
now as well half price. I think
$52 or something, which isn't probably worth it to be honest. But
no, I'm not a big Dishonored fan, but I think I'll be curious just to see what else will be coming out.
Let's have a prediction, right? Let's do a prediction. What do you think the next day of sales will be? Have a guess.
Oh, look, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they chucked in FIFA again at some point. I think, look, I mean, the digital prices have come down, and you saw on that Black Friday sale, most of the AAA titles were quite cheap digitally as well. I think FIFA was actually cheap last Christmas, and it might have been on that 12 deals of Christmas.
They're picking new games, like they're not.
No, that's right. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Call of Duty, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw FIFA.
I think it'd be funny if they put No Man's Sky on there.
Oh, yeah, that might be a little bit controversial. Look, I wouldn't be surprised even if you saw Last Guardian on there or something like that. Like, I think they're not afraid to drop the price on the bigger titles and the newer titles now. You might see Doom or something like that, one of those games that's been cheap for a while now. But look, the pricing on the digital stuff's been quite good.
It's good, yeah.
So I've got a little bit of funds in the wallet, and I think I'm just kind of hanging out to see what else they're going to drop, because that might be kind of guiding me on what I might play next.
Yeah, for me, it's just about finishing 15. I want to like spend some quality time with it because I sort of like rushed through Watch Dogs 2. Like I'd finished the storyline, got the plat, but there was so many side missions that like I hadn't done. There was like,
Mm.
I reckon 30, 40 at least. So like there's a
Yeah,
lot to go back to if this DLC is any good.
yeah, well, that'll be interesting, and I think that's Watch Dogs 2. They really doubled down on that open world stuff and gave people a lot to do. But when there's no reason, I guess, to have to do it, if unless you're absolutely obsessed with that game, it does tend to kind of taper off a little bit. But
It's just
I
with
think,
like Final Fantasy sitting there, right? Like at some point you've got to like switch
uh,
across.
yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy 15, that's going to take you a little while to finish. So I think you sink your teeth into that.
Sounds good. I think we'll leave it there then. Adam, thanks for joining me once again.
Thank you.
I think the next podcast we'll do will be the Game of the Year discussion, and we'll like pick one between us for whatever that's
Yeah.
worth to the people
See if we
listening.
can reach a consensus.
Yeah, we'll do our best. So thanks for joining me,
Thank you.
and we will see everyone probably in a couple of weeks. Catch you guys.